Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday. This is our week number 2, and we are so happy to be joining you again on this wonderful journey. And this is becoming a part of my daily ritual, and I'm going to really miss it when it's gone. So maybe we can come up with something else so that you guys can continue to join us on this discussion. I don't know. Who knows where this is going to lead?
Well, this is really an experiment, and I really like the way that it's going. We've gotten such wonderful response, and I know that that will continue. Thanks for working on that with us.
Absolutely. If you have noticed, we are sitting in our regular room where we film, but yesterday we had a Tip Tuesday, and that was all about creating sacred space. So this is kind of our sacred space, and this is where I do my morning reading. It's where I meditate. It's where I do my yoga and exercise and all of that. And it's just generally a room to work on yourself, your mind, your spirit, your body. We don't have a lot of distracting things in here. So it's just nice. A lot of live plants, a lot of good air and things that smell good and feel good. So if you didn't do yesterday for Tip Tuesday, or you're still working on it, get that sacred space, because it really does make a difference to have that time and have that space where you can just kind of move forward. And that is a brilliant segue, if I do say so myself, into what we want to kind of dig deeper in this week. The title of the lesson this week was called Beautiful Outlaw. And I loved that title. It was really, really beautiful. And it was an awesome service. So if you haven't seen the service, again, stop this video, go back, watch the service, and then come and join us for a little bit of a deeper discussion. So tell us what our goal is for this week.
Well, it's really wonderful that yesterday's Tip Tuesday was about making sacred space. Whether or not you have a whole room to devote to it, or just little things like there's a cushion that I only sit on when I pray, or something. Doesn't matter big or small, but you're allowing yourself to get out of God's way. And it's really important that you do that in your behavior, in your life. So,
I think that's key. Absolutely.
It's key to a lot of things. I think that so often in the spiritual work, in the religious practice, whatever you want to call it, God stuff, it's really, really easy to have a shelf full of books, to go to a lot of workshops, to go to a lot of retreats. Beautiful. But until you do something about it in real life, it doesn't matter more than just making you feel good. You got to take that inner thing and do something outward with it. And that's huge for us here at Water and Stone, but it's huge for this week.
Well, and it's kind of what I refer to as analysis paralysis. You analyze things and you read things and you collect things and you're like, ooh, I like the look of that. And you start collecting all of these things from different places. And then all of a sudden there's nothing for you. You're not doing anything with them. You're just kind of storing them away like a squirrel for winter. And you get so stuck, you get paralyzed in that collecting of, and they're all beautiful thoughts. They're all wonderful things to think about and do and collect. And I know I have my rituals, but again, right, we're talking about what are you going to do about it?
Well, and the thing is, here's the hard lesson. If you're not doing something about it in your life, it probably hasn't gotten down into your heart yet. So maybe it's a thing that you know, but you don't feel it yet.
That had not occurred to me.
That's a real test, because, I mean, think about it. When you really love somebody, you get up and you move and you do things. It's an example that we talk about a lot. So if you find that you're not living based on it, maybe it's time to go back and go, how can I not just think about it, but how can I feel it? Ask yourself questions like, well, what does healing really feel like? Not what does it look like? What have I read about it? But what does it feel like when I'm a part of the healing? How can I identify with it? Because here's the deal. If God has already got the answer, the issue for me, the core of my spiritual work is, how do I get out of God's way? So what that means is, what do I need to do? Just like making sacred space in your room, what do I need to do to get to a place where I can say to myself, nope, it's God time now? Well, take that out of just the spare room or whatever, the back porch. Take that out of it and make it into your life. Last week, we talked about the internal process of getting out of your comfort zone and letting yourself be challenged a little bit. And that's beautiful. And I hope that you're doing that. We got some great responses from people. And I know that's only the beginning for all of us. But whereas last week was an internal process, This is an externalization of that process. So in other words, last week it was about getting out of your own comfort zone. This week it's about going, wait a minute, the things that I do in my life, is it okay for a child of God to be doing these things? If I am standing up in the name of love, health, healing, wholeness, a life that works, you don't have to have big highfalutin ideas. Just, I want a functional life. If I'm going to be a functional person, is it okay to participate in some dysfunctional things? Where's the line for me? And it's about pushing that boundary a little bit.
So 2 things. I want to go back and just reiterate one more time the hugeness of the idea that looking at the part of healing, how does healing look, but how does it feel?
Yeah.
That's such a simple concept, but such a big distinction. Stop trying to think about it and try to feel it.
Right. Well, and the example that I've used a number of times, it just speaks to me, is I remember reading that Albert Einstein arrived at his theories of general relativity by coming up with the thought of, what would it be like if I was in an elevator going at the speed of light? So in other words, all these equations, and you think of a great mathematician, physicist, whatever, doing stuff on the chalkboard, beautiful.
Which is important.
But, yeah, of course, you got to do your homework, kids.
Right.
This is after you've read the Bible, after you've read Lessons in Truth, whatever else you got to do. But you get to this place where you go, well, wait, what would it feel like if I identified with the solution instead of with the problem?
Like I said, I just really wanted to point that out because it was such a huge part of it. And then I had another question for you, and I'm sure you're going to cover this topic in just a minute. But you said something about peace on Sunday. And looking, that if the goal is peace, and I really want you to talk about that because that was a part of your lesson that really hit home for me.
Well, it's a challenging piece of scripture, so much so. And the scripture from Sunday, go back and check it out, but it's the part where Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace. I didn't bring peace, but a sword.
Right.
That part. And so much so that before the service, somebody said, is that in the Bible?
Yeah, somebody asked me, well, who said that? Where is that in the Bible? And I was like, well, this is
it's really in there. And that's why at the beginning of the talk,
you have to kind of unpack.
I showed everybody my Bible. It's in the red part. That's the part that Jesus said. And it's a challenging piece of scripture deliberately. I mean, the thing is, when you think about Jesus Christ, over and over again, he is challenging. As I said in the talk, he is that wonderful, that pure, sweet presence. He's not mean about it, but he is that sweet, childlike presence, like in The Emperor's New Clothes, that says, wait a minute. Come on, everybody can see that this doesn't make sense. It's amazing how many elephants in how many rooms people put up with.
Yeah.
Some people got wall-to-wall elephants, you know what I mean? And so it's a matter of going, Jesus would say, in love, in a peaceful way, in a kind way, in a healing way, this can't continue. That's just the way that it is. We're going to move past that because love demands that we stop lying about whatever it is. And that's really what it comes down to. So what I said that felt challenging, and I could feel it when I said it. There was because I'm always watching the people when I'm doing the talk. And some things I think, I can't wait to say this out loud because I really think this is going to land with people. And sometimes it does.
Right, sometimes it doesn't.
Anyway, I wasn't really aware that it was going to be one of those moments. But what I said was, peace is not the goal, because it's not. And yeah, I get it that that's a challenging thing because people go, well, he's the Prince of Peace and all this kind of stuff. Peace on earth, I'm interested in peace, all of that kind of stuff. One of the reasons I bought my Jeep is that every time I drive by somebody else with a Jeep, I give the peace sign. It's an excuse for me to remember to give the peace sign. Once again, make room in your behavior for whatever speaks to you. But anyway, that is not the goal. Peace is a byproduct. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, if your goal is a relationship with God, if your goal is a healthier life, if your goal is something good and you move forward in it, you will find peace in it as a byproduct of the path. If you're just shooting for peace, what a funny thing to say, shooting for peace. If you're heading towards peace, if that's your goal, it doesn't work as a destination because you make too many weird choices. And maybe you know this from your life. I've had too many examples of that goofy thing happening where, well, I'm just a peaceful presence. But what that really means is you're going to fall for anything.
Right.
You can make peace with alcoholism, with dysfunction, with abuse.
With a lot of things, right? That's what I was going to say. But I don't think that is our job description. I think our job description is to be that loving, truthful presence that says, no, not today.
Right.
And give no more explanation than this doesn't fit me today.
Well,
like somebody asking you to try on the wrong size shoe. You would be like, well, I'm not mad about it. It just doesn't fit.
Exactly. And that's a great example. And you don't have to be a jerk about it.
Right, you don't. And you can just be, no, not today. That doesn't fit me right now. It doesn't fit where I'm at in my life. And that's okay. Bless you. You go on your way and do that. But I think that is the external stuff that we're talking about.
You don't hit somebody to prove that hitting is wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
This is a fancy way of saying two wrongs don't make a right. So in the name of being right, it's about finding love. Peace happens as a result of you deciding what to be peaceful about. There's a bigger goal. I'm going to make peace with the Christ in me. I'm going to make peace with being a healer. I'm going to make peace with truth being manifest in this situation. There's my peace.
Right.
So I wanted to bring that out for a lot of reasons, and one of them being that it is absolutely way past time for us as Christians, as religious people, as spiritual seekers, whatever word you want to use, for us doing God's stuff. It is time for us to get past the idea that if I was more spiritual, I would have the power to put up with more.
Right.
So many times people say, if you were more loving, you'd put up with toxicity. If you were more spiritual, if you were more Christ-like, you'd let me clobber you. And it doesn't work that way.
I can't tell you how many times I have heard that. Because
Sure.
I think that I'm a pretty demanding person when it comes to, if you say you're going to do it, follow through.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, but you have to understand that da-da-da-da. And if you would have more understanding, if you would have more patience, it's like, I'm not the one that said it. That was you. I'm just holding you to what you said you were going to do. So
yeah.
I get that a lot. And it's not just with the kids. It's
life. It's life.
Yeah.
And the thing is, here's a nice guideline. It is not unspiritual to point out when something is broken. In fact, it is very spiritual to go, wait a minute, spirituality and wholeness, holiness comes from the same root as wholeness. So baked into the definition of the word, if I'm standing up for holiness, wholeness, I'm going to say when there's a problem, when something's broken, you kind of owe it to everybody around.
Don't be a jerk about it. Don't be mean about it.
So here's the guideline. If you find yourself speaking up and saying, hey, somebody's lying. Hey, this isn't healthy. Whatever it is. First of all, find loving ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to point that out, you must also propose a solution.
Yeah.
And it might not be a perfect solution. There's no such thing. Let that go. But the idea of, I'm not crazy about that inappropriate joke. You can't just stop there. Okay, well then how should we behave toward each other? Can you model it? Can you talk about it? Can you experience it? Can you do something to not just even propose, but live out the solution?
Or even just explain why you feel the way that you do. Wow, that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with, again, to use your example of a distasteful joke or something like that. Say, you know what, this is why it makes me feel this way.
And you know what, here's what I'd like
to see.
And you can find a way to do it that doesn't sound like a third grade math teacher.
Right.
There's ways, and you know that there's ways. At the end of the day, there are two main questions that I wanted to get across in the talk. And question one is, where is my power? So, if my power is outside of me, so for example, I spend all my life tiptoeing around a dysfunctional situation. Well, it means the situation has the power. I make sure that everything I do is validated by some external authority, whatever it is. Where's my power? Because over and over and over and over and over and over again, Jesus' message was take your power back. You're a child of God. And quite frankly, you got stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
So where's my power? Ask yourself that. When you're really feeling lost, when you're not sure, when it's a weird situation, ask yourself, where's my power? And it might help you to start to go, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I've decided to be self-possessed because I'm God-possessed, if you will. So that's the first question. And then the second question is very closely related to it, which is, how can I speak the truth to this situation? And the truth is not mean. People say the truth hurts, and I say, well, then it ain't the truth.
Right.
Facts can hurt. The fact is, I didn't look so good in the picture. The fact is, you got spinach in your teeth. The fact is, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, you're here in the name of love. The truth is, you're a healing person. The truth is, you're on the road to something bigger and better. Can you acknowledge the truth and not stumble on the facts? And in fact, if you go back and you look at that speech, the graduation speech that I talked about in my lesson that Jesus gives to the disciples, he's basically saying, don't get tripped up on the facts. The fact is that not everybody's going to like what you have to say. The fact is you might even get arrested. The fact is, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to go to Trivago to make your hotel reservations. That's fact stuff. The truth is, as long as you remember who you are, that's the internal part. Mm-hmm. And as long as you resolve to keep doing something about it. Right. He basically says, don't worry about what you're going to say. God's going to provide it. You just got to show up and open your mouth. So in other words, again, how can I remember where my power is? How can I speak the truth to my situation? And if you can do those two things, you will find yourself not putting up with stuff that hurts anymore, but rather moving through it in loving ways. If you can be the kind of person who says, you know what, I'm making sacred space in my life, and not everybody's going to like it, but I'm not here to make everybody...
I'm not here to please everybody.
This isn't a bell curve.
Right.
Life, just as I said on Sunday, is not an endurance event. This isn't about me making myself small to put up with. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make you spiritual. Spirituality has to do with solving problems, with growing, with moving forward. So if you can't remember all that, here's the big deal. Yeah. How can I identify with the healing in this situation? And if you do that, you're going to naturally find that you quit putting up with the hurt, because healing's the opposite of that. You're going to find that you move forward, because if you really identify with it, you let it be a part of you and you move forward. And that's what this whole thing is about this week.
I love that. So thank you. Thank you for an awesome Sunday lesson, and thank you for this brilliant discussion. I love talking about this stuff with you. If you have enjoyed this time with us, remember to follow us on all of our social media. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That really helps us out. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all of it, all across our social media platforms. And I'm really looking forward this week to Feedback Friday. We've had some interesting feedback this last week, but we're coming to the end of week number 2, and you're in it now. You're knee deep. You're knee deep in it. You're really making these changes. We're doing step number 2. We want to hear some interesting feedback. And I have some, for Status Saturday, I have some things to say. So watch out for our Saturday video. We usually do a very short video on Saturday morning during our walk to the market or whatever. And I'm really loving this pattern and really loving this. And I hope that you all are loving it just as much as we are. It's been such a pleasure to hear all of the stories and to share this with you. So we will see you very soon. We'll see you on Thursday for Throwdown Thursday. We'll see you on Friday for Feedback Friday. And we'll see you on Saturday for Status Saturday.
That's right. Yeah. So keep watching, keep sharing.